Hey there. Today I am going to be speaking, among many other vlogs, of the dynamics of growing up in a narcissistic family of origin. Again, family of origin, or if I say FOO, involves the parental and or sibling figures that you grew up with, whether it be your biological parents, adoptive parents, adoptive siblings, biological siblings, your aunt, your grandparent. If you grew up with cousins as siblings, pretty much, or you had like a best friend who was basically a sibling, whatever those figures are in your life. So I grew up in a family of origin that consisted of my biological mother and father. The same parents had 6 children. I'm number 3 of the 6. So when I'm talking about my childhood, I'm talking about the first 4 of us that were born to my parents here on earth. There were miscarriages in between some of us. So, but I'm the third born of the 6. I'm the first girl. I always called myself mentally the oldest growing up because my older 2 brothers are diagnosed with ADHD and autism. My brother with autism, he is on the lower end of the autism spectrum, so that makes him dependent on my parents for his whole life. He's basically, his capacity to verbalize, extract what he needs from his head is that of a developing, I'd say not even teenager, maybe an 8 or 9-year-old. So anyways, he's forever dependent on my parents. He understands a lot, but he cannot live on his own. He's kind of like having another child, who has the capacity of understanding everything as an adult. Like, anyways, that's another story. But anyways, so when I refer to my childhood, I refer to the first 4 of us growing up because there's a 7-year gap between children number 4 and number 5 of the 6 children my parents have on earth. So I can't speak for the youngest 2 children because I was in college by the time that they were in their more formative years of grade school. I was only really involved in their lives as infants and toddlers. And so where I want to start with the dynamics of my family of origin are when I came to realize that my family of origin is a narcissistic family. And that started with the discovery that how specifically my mother was. So my mother is the narcissist and my father is the passive enabler. Now, I had the revelation that my mother is a narcissist when I was scrolling through Facebook one day and I saw a little blurb. I clicked on it and it took me to an article on Psychology Today about the narcissistic parent. And it was just a very brief article, but I was like, oh my gosh, like, it stopped me. And, it was one of those enlightening moments. I was like, this is my mom. Like, this is how some people are. It's not just my mom. Okay. And what struck me most from the article was living an eggshell life. Now, for those who aren't familiar with what that term means, it means that you're tiptoeing all around so you don't crack that egg. You have to watch what you do. You have to watch what you say. You have to watch how you act. You live in a constant state of paranoia and fear that you're going to break the shell, just basically cause damage at any time. And so that's what stood out the most was the eggshell life. And from there, I've learned about narcissistic parents, the narcissistic family of origin. I do have a book for those of you who might wonder if that your parents are different. or you see dysfunctions in your own parents, I highly recommend a book that's really good to start with is Emotionally Immature Parents of Adult Children. I can't think of the author's name right now, but that's the title. It's gold. And then I would recommend moving on to, I saw this book through an ad, which really got me on my formation of learning about my mother specifically and how that affected my development as a child, as an adult. It's Narcissistic Mothers or The Narcissistic Mother. I can go ahead and put those books titles and their authors in this vlog that really helped me understand the dynamics of my childhood, my adulthood, my development as an individual with a narcissistic parent and the enabling other parental figure. So, where do I begin? So I'm going to go ahead and just start somewhere because there's so much involved. It is a life that you cannot understand unless you've experienced it for yourself, especially if you've lived in it. So my mother, as I say, is the narcissist. I remember most of my childhood living in fear. Our lives revolved around our mother. And specifically her mood, if mom was going to be angry today or not. So you wake up, well, if mom was awake, even when she was sleeping, my mom slept a lot, and that is due to her conditions, depression, and she's diagnosed with depression, and she slept a lot. I know I just said that, but that's some emphasis. A lot of our days, and it was even, I felt mixed about that because when she was sleeping, it was relief because she wasn't on our cases. But at the same time, we didn't know when she was going to wake up and if she was going to wake up in a decent mood or in an angry mood. So you just never knew when she was awake. You never knew if she was going to be angry. You never knew who she was going to be angry at, what about, for how long, or if somebody even did anything or didn't do anything. You never knew. And even if she was in a good mood, everybody was on guard because you never knew when that good mood was going to end. And for my perspective, my experience, it was what's going to set her off, or what seemed to me, what is she going to decide she's angry about now? So she would often have anger fits, as I call them. She's an anger junkie. That's her go-to for processing her lack of emotional maturity. She the anger fits were just all consuming. You could hear her throughout the whole house. She would be yelling nonstop, processing out loud, projecting. She would usually focus on one child in particular, or in mine and my sister's case, the girls was often a collective term if she was focusing on the pair of us one day. So the fits would consist of a lot of swearing. She would use a lot of curse words at us, about us, to demean us, criticize us, just whatever was on her brain, I guess. So we suffered that verbal abuse, that emotional abuse. And then I have very many memories of being very little, maybe like 4 years old. And she would often, when we were very little, send us to our rooms for the rest of the day until dad got home. And I would be crying at the window for daddy to come home. And when daddy got home, it was a relief because he calmed mom down, but he never asked us kids what happened or about our perspective. So there's an intro to my childhood with a narcissistic mother. I will keep following up with other entries of how it is to grow up with a narcissistic parent. All right, thanks for watching.